Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a video on the best races for World of Warcraft The War Within. This is going to be from a PvP standpoint. A lot of you guys have been asking me what decent races to play there are, or what to play, etc. So I thought I'd just do one of these for fun, and let's go ahead and get this started. First up is Blood Elf. So, for those that did not know this, a long time ago, Blood Elves used to actually have a silence, but it ended up getting changed to a purge at one point. They used to be really, really strong for PvP, but as of right now, I would probably put them in the B category. I don't think Blood Elf is one of the worst things to play at the moment, but they're not amazing either. So what their abilities are is obviously the purge, which it's a 2 minute cooldown to purge one thing, and you never know what you'll purge with purge, so it could be something awful, and it's a 2 minute cooldown. So it also restores some of your resource as well, which is okay, but it's not really to get super excited about. Also, their other ones are arcane resistance, which reduces the arcane damage taken by 1% and increases the critical strike chance by 1%. So arcane resistance is only really good against like arcane mages and probably balance druids with Star Surge. So including all of these abilities here, I'm ranking Blood Elf to B tier. If they had the silence like they did back then, it would be probably maybe even S tier. But ever since the Blood Elf nerf, I don't think they're amazing. There's definitely worse ones out there, so that's the reason why I'm putting it in the middle and it's B tier, because I just think there's worse ones out there, and having a purge is all right. Can help sometimes. Maybe you might get a purge on like power infusion, blessing protection, something like that. So it can be useful, but for the most part, not really too amazing, and that's why I'm keeping it in the B tier. Up next is Dark Iron. Dark Iron is one of the stronger ones at the moment. For those that don't know what it does, they have something called Fire's Blood, which removes all poisons, disease, curse, magic, and bleed effects, which is really nice. This does share a cooldown with Trinket, but not only does it remove those things, it increases your primary stat. So you can. Some people actually use this as a burst ability, so they can do massive damage. But on top of that, Feral, which is a lot of Ferals going on right now, it's very huge when you're facing Ferals because you can remove their bleeds. And then while there's not as many now because a lot of people are currently playing sub, it is very good against assassin rogues as well. So very strong for those reasons. Also, there's lots of magic classes, so you can remove your from their bleed, remove their magic as well. Sorry, I'm having a hard time speaking. So, Fireblood is one of the strongest thing. I actually think out of all three dwarf races at the moment, that Dark Iron is probably the most powerful one. So, Fireblood, very strong, removes bleeds, which is very strong against assassins and feral druids. Can be used as a burst ability for major things. The downside is it does share cooldown with the trinkets. Also, they do have Forge and Flame, which reduces damage taken by physical classes, so that's pretty nice. The other two are not really anything useful for PvP, but yeah. Overall, I'm rating Dark Iron for S tier because I think they're the strongest the strongest dwarf race, and their abilities are pretty dang good. Up next is Dracthyr. I would put them on A tier. I don't think they're good enough to be on S tier, but they are very strong, especially on classes like Hunter and Priest. They have a built-in glider. You can never be knocked off the cliff. You can also knock people off the cliff because Dracthyr has the knockback ability, which is huge. And also some other ones here. Let's see, where is it? Awaken, which increases your mastery. Mastery is always very nice. And perception increase. But overall, the main reason why I'm putting Dracthyr on A tier is because, like I said, they have the built-in glider. You can't be knocked off cliffs or die to fall damage. It's literally pretty much not possible. And you can knock people off cliffs. Even if you don't have a knockback, they have a built-in knockback, and it's huge. So that is the reason why I am putting Dracthyr on A tier. I think they are very, very good. Way better than Blood Elf, but not as amazing as some of the S tiers that are going to be going up in the video later. Up next is Draenei. For those that don't know what Draenei have, they have Gift Under Rue, which is also buffed as of the last patch 11.07, where they buffed all the abilities that different races have. And Gift of Naru was buffed. It was 3 minutes to 2 minutes. I have played Draenei quite a few times. And I think Gift of Naru is very good. It has saved me quite a few times. 20% healing is still pretty decent. And not to mention, like I said, it's on a 2-minute cooldown. Heroic Presence increases your strength, agility, and intellect, depending on obviously what you play. So more stat, more damage increase is pretty huge. And they also have Shadow Resistance, which reduces the shadow damage taken by 1%, which is good against Shadow Priest and Warlocks. So, due to all this reason, I am going to be putting Draenei on A tier. I think they're better than Blood Elf, but I don't think they're as strong as Dark Iron. So, I think they fit on the same row as Dracthyr. So that's the reason why I'm putting that on the A tier row. Up next is Dwarf. For the Dwarf, they have Frost Resistance, which is good against Frost Mages. Might of the Mountain, which increases your bonus damage and healing. And Stone Form, which is basically the same thing as Dark Iron, except this one reduces all physical damage taken by 10% for 8 seconds. I think this is the second best Dwarf race, and I don't think it's as good as Dark Iron, so I'm putting them on A tier. I think this is like the perfect spot for them because I once again think that Dwarves are stronger than Blood Elves, and they're on the same tier as Draenei and Dracthyr, which are pretty good, but not like blow your socks off away like Dark Irons. So that's the reason why I'm putting them on that tier. Up next is Undead. So for Undead, they have, where is it? Cannibalize, Will of the Forsaken, which removes Charm, Fear, Sleep effects. Cannibalize, which will give you some of your health back. Touch of the Grave, and Shadow Resistance. So personally, I think Undeads are cool. I love their race and stuff. But unfortunately, I don't think they're as good as just some of these other races in the game right now. Like, it's really good for removing fear and stuff, which is stuff like priests and warlock, but I feel like that's just kind of like maybe a select few. You can kind of argue the same thing with dwarf, to be honest, but I just don't think undead are as powerful as some of these other races. I don't think they're bad. I do think they're better than blood elf for sure, probably a little bit, just because Will of Forsaken is really nice as compared to like a purge from blood elf. So, and plus their ability does do a little bit of damage with Touch of the Grave. Cannibalize can be sometimes okay, but it's nothing really too spectacular. So, having said that, I don't think Undead's really amazing to be put in A tier or S tier. I think they're B tier at most. I just don't think they're amazing. Undead's cool and all, and I like Undead, but being real, their abilities are just not as good, and I do think they're better than Blood Elf, but that's personally where I would rank them right now. Up next is Gnome. So Gnome is a hard one to put for. If you're a warrior, everybody is currently playing Gnome because all the Frost Mages. So I actually think that Gnome deserves to be an A tier because if you're a melee player and you play Gnome like a Gnome Warrior or a Gnome Monk, stuff like that, their ability to get out of slows or roots, I should say, is absolutely really nice against the Frost Mage meta right now. So I think they deserve A tier. I don't think they're the blow your socks off S tier. You could probably make a case for it in S tier, to be honest. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Would you place them in S tier or A tier? But I personally think they're A tier. They're really good for melee, but I don't see them being as amazing for like something like a caster. But that's just me. I do think gnomes are a very powerful race, and they're definitely more powerful than Undead and Blood Elf for sure. So that is the reason why I am putting it in A tier. Up next is Goblin. And I forgot to look at the gnome one, by the way. I was too busy talking about that. But for gnomes, as you can see, hold on 1 minute. For whatever reason, it's not looking me. Oh, there we go. Anyways, going back to the gnome thing. Sorry, it's a bunch of freaking things over here. Alright, going back to the whole gnome thing. But yeah, maximum mana energy, runic power focus, nibble fingers, haste increase, escape artist. It's 1 minute cooldown. Actually, this website might be kind of wrong, but because they still haven't fixed Gift Under, but yeah, so arcane resistance reduces arcane damage taken. But yeah, you can see Gnome has some really powerful uh, things beside Escape Artist too. So I think putting them on row A was definitely the best choice. Now going back to goblins. Goblins have Rocket Jump, Rocket Barrage, which is basically just a joke. Time is money, so they have 1% increased haste, and basically the other three are basically useless. So the only ones that are really good, in my opinion, is the time is money for extra haste, which is 1%, and rocket jump. But having said that, goblins are not too particularly amazing. I mean, rocket jump can be kind of useful for like saving yourself, or just like if you're about to be jumped off a cliff or get a little bit of way. I've seen some goblins use it versus me, but it really doesn't do anything in this day and age because people can just get back onto you really quickly in this game anymore, and just a bunch of stuff. So yeah, rocket jump just doesn't really do much. I personally think it's worse than Undead and Blood Oath. So I'm putting it on C tier. They just don't bring anything really that great, to be honest. Rocket jump, like I said, it can be used as another way to get away, but for the most part, just thinking about it realistically, they don't really bring anything. You could probably even move it down to D tier, but I'll give a C tier a little bit lenient because I do think there might be a lot worse out there than goblins, which I'll get to later. But yeah, I don't think they bring anything, so I'm just putting them on C tier for that reason. Okay, up next is Highmountain Tauren, and I've actually played this before. They do have a ability called Bull Rush, which is kind of similar to Rocket Jump a little bit, except you just charge in and you knock enemies down. Can be used kind of like a. I've used it sometimes as a little bit of a kind of getaway-ish ability back when I was High Mountain, and you can also use it as a interrupt. Also, there's an increased versatility and rugged tenacity, which reduces damage taken by your stamina. So, having said that, I think they are better than Goblin. So, due to that reason, I do think they are going in B tier. Like I said, somewhere in the middle. They don't have the worst stuff, but not the best either. So, putting them in B tier pretty much is the right call, in my opinion. Alright, up next is Human. So, Human, in my opinion, pretty much goes in S tier, in my opinion. They have Will to Survive, which is basically just another thing to get you out of trinkets, or stun, sorry, which is nice. And they also have a 2% secondary stats increase from all resources. I think Human is very strong because there's so many stuns, especially with all the Ret Paladins. We got Snowdrift. There's rogues, which are everywhere. So overall, while yes, it does share a cooldown with trinkets, there's so many stuns in the game currently right now, probably more so than some of the other CC in the game, at least in my experience. I feel like I could be just over exaggerating that a little bit, but I definitely feel like I eat more stuns than fears and stuff in the game. So that is the reason why I'm putting Human on S tier. I think they're good, and that's the reason why I'm just putting them in S tier. That trinket is just really, really nice to help against rogues, paladins, and a bunch of other stuns that are in the game. You can argue it's the same thing as Will the Forsaken, but there's not as many fears, in my opinion, I feel like, as there is with stuns in this game. Like I said, that's just my opinion, but I'm putting Human on S tier for that reason. Alright, up next is Colturian. I'm going to put Colturian on A tier. You can probably make it on S tier. It's up to you. You know what? I'm going to put it on S tier just because Haymaker can, I'm not even exaggerating this, can change the game quite a few times, especially on classes on like Death Knight or Rogue. Your Death Knight can just death grip the person near the ledge and then just CC them with blinding sleets and then knock them off out of the fight. Like for example, on Twin Peaks, I cannot tell you how many times I've killed a flag carrier and we won the game because I just I death gripped them, blinding sleeted, and knocked them off the cliff. It was great. And on Battleground Blitz, I had the Storm. I would death grip a healer towards where the other side is, where the Alliance side is, and CC him, knock him off the cliff, and that's a healer completely out of the team fight for free. Just like that. Coltaren is huge. So I know I'm selling Coltaren quite a bit. But yeah, Coltaren can drastically change the game on certain maps. It is huge, and that is my personal reason why I'm putting them on S tier. You can disagree with me all you want. That's fine. But I think Coltaren deserves S tier because Haymaker can drastically change a fate of a game, in my opinion, on certain maps. So, and this even works, and like I said, in Blitz too. So, AB, Twin Peaks, Eye of the Storm especially, it's massive. So that's the reason why I am putting it on S tier. Up next is Lightforged Draenei. So for this one, Light's Judgment, which deals damage in 2.5 minutes. Demon's Bane, which increases... Okay, that's nothing. Erupt. Oh, basically when you die, you AoE people when you die. And Holy Resistance, which reduces holy damage taken. So personally, I don't see too many Lightforged Draenei. Last time I played Lightforged Draenei was ages ago. I don't know how much strong it is now. They did recently get a buff not too long ago. Light's Judgment increased to 10 yards instead of 5 yards. Light's Judgment damage increased by 40% and now deals reduced damage if beyond 8 targets. So it did get a buff. However, saying that, I don't think they are very, very strong, but I think they're better than Goblin, so I'll put them in B tier out of the kindness, because I just don't think they're still that amazing, especially not deserving of A tier or S tier, and I think the buff might have helped them out a little bit. But yeah, that's my reason. I think the buff might have helped them out a little bit, but B tier is all I'll give them because I don't think they're as amazing as before. Now, if you guys have been watching my streams, I have been loving Mag'har. Mag'har got a buff, and you can see right here. Stats gained from Astral Call increased by 30% and increases one of your 2 highest secondary stats. They got a huge buff. This, I'm not even joking, when this is insane. Like, I have not regret a single time where I went Mag'har and have been enjoying this buff. The other ones are just not really amazing. Like, if you play a pet class, great, but pet health increase, like, it doesn't really matter to me. Savage Blood is pretty good just because it reduces the duration of poisons, diseases, and curses, but again, doesn't blow me away. But Ancestral Call is huge. Like, you get 6,500 stat buff from playing Mag'har. It is huge. So, in my opinion, Mag'har has been buffed to S tier. Like, some of you guys might call me out on that and laugh, but I cannot stress enough how freaking insane Mag'har is right now after the buffs. It is so fun to play. I have no regrets on it. The damage is disgusting, and yeah, I absolutely love Mag'har at the moment. So, I'm putting Mag'har in S tier for that reason. Alright, up next is Robot Gnome. So, basically, what they get is combat analysis, which increases your primary stats, stacking up to 10 times while you're out of combat. They also have a cheat death. When you fall below health, you heal for 15% of your max health. And I think that's pretty much it. So, overall, I've actually seen some robot gnomes, and they do pretty well. I actually think they're better than some of the... believe it or not, I actually think they're better than the B-Row. I've actually, like... most of the people never play it because it looks so freaking bad, but including myself, I can't do it. But their abilities are actually, in my opinion, pretty good. The cheat death is actually pretty nice. I've seen some people get saved by it. So, I think they deserve A tier. They don't deserve S tier, in my opinion, but they do deserve A tier because their abilities are actually pretty dang good. Alright, up next is Nightborne. I cannot... Nightborne just is not that good. They're probably one of the worst raises in the game. So, here's what Nightborne is like right now. They got Magical Infinity, which increases the magical damage, though. I mean, that's great if you're a caster. They have Arcane Pulse, which is 3-minute cooldown, does basically no damage, and just reduces movement speed. Like, it's a joke. And then Arcane Resistance, which once again is only really good against Arcane Mages and balance druids. They just don't really have anything good. I mean, I guess you could kind of argue their 1% damage increase is probably better than uh, rocket jump, but rocket jump can sometimes be pretty useful to like juke people, and I don't know. I don't think Nightborne's really that good. So I'm putting the Nightborne on D tier for that reason. Night Elf, I don't think anybody really needs to be surprised by this, but Shadow Mode, hands down, probably the most powerful abilities in the game. Even in PvE, it's really strong to people. So, yeah, we all know Night Elves have taken over PvP. Elusiveness increases your speed while stealth and proud. Nature's resistance reduces damage taken. Quickness to reduce chance to dodge melee and range attacks. Shadow Mode, one of the most broken things in the game. You can dodge like Chaos Bolts or just Shadow Mode. Re-stealth for rogues and druids is incredibly broken. Touch of Loon increases your haste and crits depending on night and day. And yeah. Alright, up next is Orc. And for Orc, they have Blood Fury, which increases your melee or attack power. It's basically the same thing as Mag'har, it's just that it's attack power and spell power instead of your stats. They also have increased damage dealt with pets, which is only really good for, like, Beast Mastery Hunters and Demo Locks, but that's still very helpful against them. And they have Hardness, which reduces the stun duration by an additional 20%. Having said that, Orc is S tier. They have always been one of the most powerful ones for Horde side. So 100% I'm putting them on S tier for that reason. They are one of the best Horde races because they have pretty much every... they're good for like anything. They have like a increased burst for any class. And plus, if you're a hunter or a Demolock, it's even more of a bonus because they have increased damage to their pets as well. Not to mention, reduced stun duration is absolutely huge with so many stuns in the game. So leaving it on S tier for that reason. Up next is Pandas. So, for them, they have increased stat food by 100%. They have Bouncy, which you take 50% less damage for fall damage, but with Goblin Gliders and all this stuff and all that fun stuff, I feel like it's not really as needed. And Quaking Palm. Personally, I don't think Pandas are really that amazing. They're really decent for Battlegrounds because if you go in Battlegrounds and have the food buff, they give you so much stamina, so that's pretty nice for Battlegrounds. And for Quaking Palm, I think the only class that really is good with is probably Priest. So having said that, I'm going to be putting Panda on C tier. I feel like they're the same tier for Goblins. I do think they're better than Goblins just because in Battlegrounds they're pretty good with the food buff. Quaking Palm is pretty decent for like maybe something like an interrupt or something. You know what? We'll put Pandas on B tier. We'll put Pandas on B tier. They're better than Goblins just because Quaking Palm could be pretty decent for an interrupt. And the food buff in Battlegrounds is definitely very nice. So I'll put it on B tier for that reason, and that's where we'll leave Panda. Up next is Tauren. So for Tauren, they get Brawn, which increases critical strike damage and healing, similar to Dwarf. They have increased stamina with Endurance. Nature reduced damage taken by 1%. And of course, War Stomp, which is very famous for getting an interrupt or another CC on somebody like War Stomp Cyclone. So, in my opinion, this is one of the stronger ones I would put on A tier. You could probably make a case for it on S tier as well, but I don't think it blows me away as much as the S tier ones. But however, I do think it's really amazing, and it's one of the always good one on Horde that I know of that has always been pretty good. So I'm putting Tauren on A tier because they got some really good abilities with War Stomp, of course, and having that extra stam is nice, and of course the extra critical strike bonus damage and healing is nice as well. Alright, by the way, there was some other ones that I did forget to post as well, but like Nightborne did get a buff, but Nightborne still sucks anyways. And stuff like that, so. Up next is Troll. Troll, in my opinion, is deserving of A tier. They are very strong. with the little mini bloodlust they have. It's a 3-minute cooldown, but increasing your melee range and spell haste. When I merc on my druid, for example, because I'm a night elf and I merc into horde, I play troll quite often because I merc pretty often these days. And while it's 3-minute cooldown, I'm sure everybody knows having a huge spell haste, no matter what you play, is or melee, ranged, or spell haste is pretty dang freaking nice. So a mini bloodlust is just absolutely huge to compare with your burst cooldowns. So the other ones obviously aren't as impressive, but 3-minute cooldown that you can use with your burst is really huge. So I'm putting that on A tier for that reason. They're better than the B tier ones, but not as strong as the S tier ones in my opinion. Now for Void Elf, they also got some changes. So partial rift movement speed of the rift increased by 80%, duration is increased to 8 seconds, was 6 seconds, and the maximum range increased to 35 yards. And proc rate has been adjusted, now increasing the healing damage by 5% for 12 seconds, and now functions with absorbs. So Void Elf did get some changes. Having said that, Void Elf is very strong in my opinion. I would put them on S tier. Their teleport is really huge, especially on classes that got multiple teleports like mages, warlocks, hunters, can juke. They're a very strong race, and I would put them on S tier just because of their amazing their void teleport, and not to mention they also have that proc that increases their damage and healing as well, as you just saw. So that is very nice as well. So I would put them as one of the higher best specs or best race in the game. Up next, Vulpera. So Vulpera also got some changes. Buff to healing and damage increased by 40%, and Bag of Tricks now decreases the enemy's movement by 80% for 4 seconds and increases the ally's movement speed for 20% effect. Having said that, I still don't think they really have anything too amazing for the table. You can see right now they have reduced fire damage taken by 1%, and Bag of Tricks is only 1.5 minute cooldown, but it just doesn't really do that much. It's kind of similar to Goblin, where it's just kind of not really noticeable. So I'm going to put them on C tier. I do think they bring some stuff compared to like Nightborne, so I'm rating it higher than that. Otherwise, it would probably be D tier. They do bring some stuff, in my opinion, but it's not really anything amazing. So you could probably make a case for it in D tier if you really want to, but I'll put it on C tier just because it can do some. It probably can do some damage after the buffs, but I haven't seen too many of them, and I haven't asked my friend yet to see how it is. But yeah, so I'm putting them on C tier for that reason. Up next is Worgen. Worgen also got a change. Now stacks with movement speed bonus with other movement speed effects. So it did get a buff. And Worgen have Dark Flight, which is what we were talking about, and increasing the movement speed, plus you can stack it up. They have Viciousness, which increases critical strike chance. They have Admiration, which reduces shadow and nature damage. And that's pretty much it. So I would rate them in the same category as the B tier. With the Worgen buff, they will be pretty nice. Also for flag carrying, I've actually seen a few Worgen droids run it with Dark Flight lately, and the speed buff is actually pretty dang scary. Sometimes they can actually speed run pretty far now. So I would put them on B tier, as their situation, depending on how it's used and stuff, is not really too amazing. Doesn't really blow me away like A and S tier do, but it's definitely not as bad as C tier, and definitely not as bad as D tier. So I think B tier works perfectly good for Worgen right now. And then last but not least is Zandalari. So regeneration no longer cancels periodic damage effects. Its cooldown is now 3 minutes, was 2.5 minutes, and heals you for 50% of your maximum health, was 100%. So regeneration basically got a nerf. Embrace Akuna healing increased by 300%, and chance to trigger increased by 250%. Embrace Bosami increased by 50%, and Embrace Kumbaya chance to increase by 400%. So, for their abilities, you can see right here, Embrace the Loa. You can choose Loa, and I can't see them all, but I think one of them was like crit and some other ones. One of them has a 15-minute glider, which is nice to have a second glider if you need it, but everybody has gliders in PvP these days. And regeneration is, I'm going to be honest, only really good for something probably like a paladin and a rogue. I mean, it can be used like in some situations thanks to this like canceled periodic damage effects, but it's just it doesn't really like feel as good as it used to. So I'm gonna put them on B tier. I don't think they're amazing, like the A tier and S tiers, but I think they're deserving of B tier because they're not bad, but they're not as bad as Goblin and Vulpera, but they're not as good as like Dracthyr, Draenei, etc. So let me know in the comment section down below if you agree with my decisions or not, what you would change. Feel free to disagree with me if you want. Just let me know. That's it. See you guys later. Peace.